So we have just witnessed the biggest loss margin in All Blacks history. As you can see beside me, 35 points to 7 in favour of the Springboks for this game at Twickenham. I have to say, the Springboks, they played absolutely brilliantly. The All Blacks from the get-go of this game seemed to not be able to find their feet, giving away repeated penalties just out from their own try line. We did see 2 yellow cards as well in the first 15 minutes of the game, but the Springboks, their line-out was phenomenal. They were able to get a few steals with Franco Mostert. He was playing 5 in this game and now maybe has secured himself that spot heading towards that Rugby World Cup. The scrums, they were strong from the Springboks. Most scrums ending up with the advantage, which was a bit of a change from what we saw in the Rugby Championship when it was a little bit more 50-50. And then their backline was able to fire very nicely. Canan Moodie, his first opportunity at number 13, making the most of it in this game. Almost had himself a try, but with just that little bit offside. But throughout this game, I think the All Blacks, their discipline definitely let them down. They conceded 14 penalties in total compared to the Springboks 11. So in the second half, we saw a lot more penalties going against the Springboks than the All Blacks. But it was just that damage early on when Sam Cane got yellow carded, when Scott Barrett got yellow carded, and then Scott Barrett ending up with a red card. And I'm not too sure what's going to happen there, as the referee initially gave it as a yellow, then showed the red. So I'm not sure if there's a suspension waiting for Scott Barrett or not. But if so, will be a massive blow to the AB. Speaking of massive blows, Tyrell Lomax injured in this game. Knee injury, hopefully will be all right for the Rugby World Cup, although his knee looked like it had been through a mincer, so that's not ideal for the ABs here. They were knocking the ball on a lot as well, the All Blacks, which I think was costing them in this contest. Every time they tried to get the backline in motion, there would be a knock on, and that was actually the case when they went to score their first try with Will Jordan, Mark Talia knocking the ball on, and the overall build-up. But we saw 5 tries from the Springboks. Malcolm Marx, of course, got himself one. He was phenomenal. Sia Khaleesi scoring himself the first try of the game. We also saw Quagga Smith score. We saw Kurt Learinsa once again get himself another try at international level. And then Bongio Manambi scoring the other. For the All Blacks, they just scored the 1 try. It was a phenomenal one, though. Cam Roigard with a bit of individual brilliance, breaking through about 3 or 4 tackles, just having enough pace to get to the line ahead of Cobus Reinach. But for the All Blacks, it was too little too late at that point. They hadn't put enough pressure on the Springboks before that point, and due to that, the Boks were able to run away with the scoreline. But at halftime, we were sitting 14-0 in favour of the Springboks. They didn't actually go for many 3-pointers at all in this game, which I believe was a pre-planned tactic that they did want to go with, going for the corners, that is, so that they were able to apply that extra pressure. And with the All Blacks committing to the rolling maul just that little bit too early, it meant that they were also spending a lot of time playing under penalty advantage. But we saw about 158 tackles made by the Springboks. I think the stats are relatively surprising, because with the amount of time that we saw the Springboks just out from the All Blacks line and the amount of pressure that they were able to apply, the All Blacks, statistically wise, actually have a few more stats in their favour. Defenders beat them. The All Blacks managed to beat 20 more defenders in this game than the Springboks, although then you look at the scoreline and say, were the defenders that they were beating actually crucial because they weren't able to turn it into points? Tackling percentage for South Africa was 75%. I know that for the Springboks, something they'll want to take away from this game is maybe cutting back on a few of those penalties that they were giving away near the end of the game. But overall, they will be heading into the World Cup in France with a lot of confidence. First game up against Scotland should be an absolutely cracking one. But a few of the players who really stepped up in this game, Canan Moodie at 13 I thought was very strong. Esterhuizen, that midfield combo, something we could get to see in the near future. Valimza played well. Mani Libok, to be honest, the whole backline were doing exactly what they needed to. And the 4-pack with that physicality, being able to outmuscle the All Blacks, kept them on the front foot, which allowed the backline to flourish for New Zealand. If I had to pick players who did well in this game, I mean, Cam Roigard, when he came off the bench, seemed to have a real impact in the starting lineup. Savia had his moments, but maybe not quite as prominent as we would normally like to see. And then, to be honest, that's probably about it for the All Blacks. They didn't really have a huge amount of other players who were able to step up in this game. If I have a look through at the stats, it may say otherwise. I know that a few of those forwards were having to make quite a few tackles early, but yeah, overall, Springboks, brilliant performance from them. All Blacks, biggest losing margin that they have had in history. So talk about hitting rock bottom. but them wanting to increase it just before that Rugby World Cup. Let's see whether or not they can fire back in that first game up against France. Let's see if South Africa can keep this momentum rolling throughout Pool B. But thank you all very much for tuning in into this very short review. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you all for the next one.